And my favorite part of the SDGs is this motto, leave no one behind, starting with the furthest behind first.
Hello and welcome to the Energy Talk podcast. My name is Olubumi Olajide, and thank you so much for joining us for the second season of the Energy Talk. For people who are returning from the last season, thank you so much. You already know what to expect, and for everyone who is new to the podcast, look forward to lots of interesting conversations about the energy industry. And we start off on a very good note today. So today is going to be all about energy access, entrepreneurship, and just being tenacious in the face of challenges. We're going to be discussing a lot about the SDGs and about how impacts can be made in local communities and why being involved in the solution process is very important. So I hope you enjoy this conversation that I'm going to have with Sandra Dozie, CEO of Salpha Energy, and I look forward to seeing what you guys think.
So my name is Sandra Dozie, and I'm really passionate about Africa. And when I speak of Africa, I'm focused on two things: people, unlocking people to achieve the transformative growth that we need to achieve in Africa to get us to where we need to be, and the energy to really unlock that growth, the energy for agriculture, the energy for services, and just, leapfrogging Africa to its place as a global leader. And what has really, really influenced my worldview is the experience I've gotten from my places of work, most importantly, the United Nations, where I worked in the Secretariat. And I was really, really exposed to the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs, or the 2030 Agenda, which was focused on, people, planet prosperity. And I just loved the paradigm, the new way of thinking. And in addition to that, my experience working in Africa, in Nigeria, with a conglomerate that is focused on energy as well, manufacturing and real estate, and just tapping into the abundance that is Africa, the people, the resources, and it just really, really formed my next venture into solar, into renewable energy, and at the same time, unlocking cleaner, sustainable energy to transform growth and eradicate climate change. So that's really what has inspired my worldview.
Okay, so that's a very good introduction, and I can't wait to dissect through all of that. So, you mentioned a passion for the African people. So, you've had the opportunity to be in different places at different times with the work you're doing, and being back right now, I'm sure you've just noticed uh, like different things that uh African countries, or specifically Nigeria, is really lacking in many areas. So
Absolutely.
your work has, and the work you're doing has gone great lengths to try to fix or remedy that, to be more precise. Specifically starting with your work at the UN, how did that impact you? Was that early on in your career? Was that something in the mid-level? Or how did that impact you? How has that impacted you right now in the work that you're doing right now in renewable energy and sustainable development?
So that was really early on in my career, and I'd have to say that that was a godsend opportunity because it really, really reclassified my worldview because I was always exposed to energy poverty. Growing up in Africa, Nigeria, exposed to the lack of energy to study, the lack of energy to for recreational purposes or even income generating opportunities. So I always thought about energy in terms of oil and gas. The fact that Nigeria had just abundance of oil, but yet we were still lacking in the infrastructure to grow really baffled me. So when I got into the UN, I really began to see, for example, energy in a whole different light. The fact that energy had to be modern, clean, and sustainable, to power future generations and to also analyze and dissect the fact that the energy we have been using. tracing back generations have been really harmful to society. And the fact that the banner was like a relay race, the baton was being passed on to my generation to make a difference. And that really transformed how I saw the world. And for me at that point in time, getting that experience, it was almost like, you were on the clouds. The UN then was always, people always joked and said that, you're on iCloud and you just can't wait to come down to the real world to actually implement. So I really, really couldn't wait to come back home to implement, because I was also at a very exciting time where the SDGs were also being implemented. So just a lot of things, really, really inspired me, I would say.
Oh wow. Oh, so correct me if I'm wrong, but this was in 2015 when the SDGs were passed finally by the UN, right?
Yes, yes. Late
Okay.
2014, yeah,
Yeah.
downwards.
Okay. So could you just give a brief of what the SDGs are and what they've meant so far since they've come out from the UN as kind of like a policy guideline?
Absolutely. So the SDGs, or also known as the 2030 Agenda, is simply a way to create a more inclusive, equitable, prosperous, and sustainable future. And it's really, really looking at five P's: people, planet, partnership, prosperity, and peace. And it's about essentially how to eradicate extreme poverty and ensure sustainability. And it was ratified by 193 countries at the UN in September. So that's a mini introduction. And for me, the way I look at the SDGs, and which is how we thought about it then, was that the SDGs apply to all countries. Previously, development plans were mainly focused on progress in developing nations, progress in Nigeria, in Somalia, sub-Saharan Africa. But today, the reality is that it's different. The world's poor live in middle income countries. Inequality within countries are on the rise. The effects of climate change, environmental degradation are felt by people in all communities across the world. So we had to look at applying the SDGs to all countries. And the beauty of the SDGs is also that it's also very interlinked. Because if you look at previous developmental plans, they were always focused on one issue at a time. First hunger, then clean energy, then inclusive institutions. But the SDGs recognizes that for development to be balanced, you need to look at the economics, the social impacts, and the environmental sustainability. All these three things have to be really, really buttressed in order to, have sustainable impacts. So, for example, if we look at, women, supporting women and girls' empowerment, that could also affect, local economy, then affect safer childbirth, child mortality, and then also build inclusive communities, which are the goals that the UN hopes to achieve. And my favorite part of the SDGs is this motto: leave no one behind, starting with the furthest behind first. Hearing this, I've always known about this, leave no one behind, but then hearing this at that level really, really made me realize that, you know, people shouldn't be left behind. And if you think about it, there are about 700 million people who live in extreme poverty. So the developmental gains should be focused on these people. And before, with the old developmental plans, it was always looking at averages. The fact that, okay, the average income level had improved, there was a decrease in average child mortality, but in reality there are structural discriminations that are hidden if you use averages. So the UN really, really took a distinguished approach with the SDGs to really, really knock off the use of averages and really, really focus on, zero hunger, zero poverty, metrics like that. And last but not least, everyone is needed. The fact that to create the SDGs, surprisingly, the UN took the largest participatory process ever in the UN. 10 million people from all walks of life expressed their views, online and offline. It was really, really amazing to be part of that. Different parts of the world, gathering their insights and knowledge. That was super exciting. And it just showed that, the UN was really, really focused on getting everybody involved. And I think that's what really makes the SEGs unique from previous attempts.
Hmm. I can just imagine how it must have felt being a part of that that push, that movement, and just knowing that you are playing an active role right now in actually bringing those words just from the paper and bringing it back into the real world. So as you said previously, I just want to highlight that because I think that's really important. The SDGs, or the sustainable development goals, they're so interconnected, and I think they're about 30, if I'm not wrong about that. So they're about 30, but the beauty
17,
of it is, excuse me.
17. We're trying to make it a
Oh,
little
17.
small and cute.
Thank you. Thank you for the correction. See, that's why I'm happy you're here. So they're 17, but the beauty of it is that you can't really address one without being forced to look at another. Two things that I
Absolutely.
highlighted. Or even three things. You brought up opportunity for women, and you brought up poverty and access to clean energy. And if you try to separate all those things while coming up with solutions, you find out that it's a very difficult thing to do. Like you have to put
Exactly.
extra effort into, like if you wanted to find solution for one, you would find yourself like having to address the other,
Exactly.
because these problems are also interconnected, especially in rural communities, rural developing communities where they don't have much access to clean energy. They don't have much money at all. The women have to fetch firewoods. The women have to do most of the domestic cooking. The women are always busy. Women have put themselves in contact with harmful fumes from what they used to cook, and all these things just tie together so much that the sustainable development goals just highlight them, that okay, this, if we're going to fix this problem as a whole, and we're going to have this motto of no one gets left behind, something that we need to take everyone along with them. And that is what I find truly amazing about the entire thing. So getting to the part that you're playing right now, you've taken it a step further than just being a part of it and being an active participator. So how has that transition been, transitioning from the UN into what you're doing right now?
Oh wow. When you're speaking about it, it's a different tempo because yes, you're passionate and yes, you're seeing all the issues. World leaders are coming in, civil society is coming in discussing on how we can implement the changes. There's so many plans in place. So you feel like, you have the ammo, you have everything, and you're like, okay, I can't wait to go back down to Africa and make a difference. And then you come to Africa and then you realize that, oh wow, it's a different thing entirely, because it's a different thing entirely in the sense that you really really have to understand the environment you're in, understand the people that you're interfacing with. It's not a place where, because I mean I worked in America and China and UK, and the grind is different. But when you're in Africa, you really really have to adapt. So I would say it's been pretty exciting to be able to adjust to implementing these goals. And I'm proud of the success that my team and I have been able to accomplish, essentially.
Okay, so let's talk about what you've been able to accomplish so far. So, in the time you've been back, you started a renewable energy company called Salpha Energy.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, so could you just tell how you came about that decision? Because, in general, in the energy space, just speaking in broad terms, now talking about oil and gas and renewables, there are not many uh women who are in CEO position or director positions. I think that's a problem in the industry in general. So how did you take this leap that okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to put my money, my time, my effort where my mouth is, and I'm going to pursue this. How was coming to that conclusion? How was it for you?
Okay, to be very honest, like I said earlier, energy poverty, I'd always been aware of it growing up. So it had always been those things where me and my close buddies would think and we would wonder, why is it that, Nigeria, Africa is so resource abundant, but yet we're unable to harness this abundance into actually transforming lives of people, of Africans. And to the extent of me doing my master's dissertation, and I actually wrote about the resource curse, and I analyzed a few countries: Nigeria, Venezuela, And I, was recommending how countries that are resource cursed could actually learn from a country like Norway that was doing absolutely fantastically well. But then getting to the UN, I began to realize that, energy was more than just, like I said, oil and gas. And I became more and more aware of renewables, in particular solar, and just seeing companies who were doing that really, really, really amazed me and really, really made me just want to just bring that back home and just do it even better. And I'd say that I also have co-founders who I worked with in uni as well, who really really understood the challenge, and they also brought in diverse perspectives into the matter. And essentially that's how Salpha was birthed, through my different experiences and through me being an African, a Nigerian.
So you kind of touched briefly on it about how uh different it is running a business in an African setting, and
Oh
especially in
boy.
Nigeria where we have this resource curse, as you so eloquently put it. So right now, how long has the company been going?
It's been going 2 years now, 2 years strong.
Okay. So 2 years strong. So in 2 years, what would you say your major challenges have been? So 2 years is relatively not a long time. So I'm sure you have some very interesting problems to solve right now.
Well, the first challenge that I faced coming back was the fact that Nigeria was going into a recession. And it was absolutely crazy because at one point the dollar was at 150 naira to a dollar, and it skyrocketed to over 340%, which was about 400 naira to the dollar. So that's really, really wrecked financial models. It really, really wrecked every plan that was in place. People who are supposed, the inflation in the country alone was, tremendous. Lots of hoarding of the dollar, lots of people in unemployment, lots of companies closing down, and it was really really, if you imagine the state of the country, it was an absolute nightmare. So being able to start a business at that point in time was very difficult, but I would say this, that it was a big blessing in disguise, because my team was able to birth at that time. And two things happen when you're in a crisis: you either fold and you go out of business, or you stay resilient and you just keep on, keep on, keep on, keep on. And why I was able to really, really keep on was because privately, Salford wasn't just, another business, another, thing to tick off. It really, really came to me like a sort of destiny, like sort of destiny call, if I would say that. So I really, really had to stick to that. And so it wasn't easy, but I would say I'm really, really proud of the team and how we're able to just overcome and just be resilient. And now I see that I have a team that is so, we know how to bounce back. We've been through it all. Disappointments with, with people, with suppliers, with distributors, with all sorts of things. And it really, really pushed us beyond the limits. And I'm so excited to be raised in that time, to have begun at that time. Because if I had begun in a period where everything was going okay, I wouldn't have been as aggressive.
That is quite a story. So just to give a bit of context to how the market is in Nigeria, we have a national grid, and we have utility companies that are supposed to supply us electricity, but they don't do that good of a job at it. So we have a lot of downtime. We have a lot of times when the lights are off and there's not much you can do about it. So almost every home has a backup system. It's pretty much a
Absolutely.
necessity, and businesses go a step up and they basically have their own, like, either they have their own power generating unit, or they have just something to keep them operational 24 hours so they can stay competitive. So in in theory, Nigeria should be a big market for a solution like solar that could serve as a backup system and could complement the systems we already have. But in reality, it doesn't really work out that way, which is quite curious. Um, One of the reasons has to do with the fact that we enjoy fuel subsidies, so we can afford to run generators for an insanely long amount of time. But that's another story. So from your perspective, in specific to Nigeria, how has the fact that renewable energy is still not a popular option affected the way you guys market your product and you guys price your product, especially because one of the things I heard when people talk about solar systems is that they say that it's just too expensive and they can't afford to pay the down payments at at a go, and that like phases out a large portion of the market. So how has your company gone to address this problem, and how are you looking with marketing to really appeal to people who need these solutions the most right now?
You're absolutely right. The subsidies have an effect on, the opportunity cost of, spending maybe 50,000 naira on a solar kit or a generator. Why am I going to spend this amount of money on this when I can do that? The opportunity cost is there because the subsidies are in place. On the side note, insider information. Well, I don't think so, but subsidies are not going to be here for long. So prices are going to go up. Prices are going to go up. But going back to your question, quite frankly, lots solar globally is quite nascent. It's quite nascent, and it's really awesome that prices for solar panels, battery prices have been declining rapidly, and that has really helped usher in this solar energy revolution. And so coming into Africa, we've had a lot of impact in, for example, East Africa with mobile money in Kenya, where companies are able to break down the payments of these home systems. For example, if you were to spend like 200,000 naira buying a solar home system, you could probably pay for it instrumentally across 12 months or 24 months, depending on your income cycle. So these breakthroughs have been very important in unlocking disposable spending capital. And that has really helped the markets grow, and you can see a lot of that in East Africa, and it's also coming down to Nigeria. Nigeria's issue is the fact that, firstly, a lot of substandard solar products have come into the country, and it's really affected reputation. And then secondly, the fact that we're not really used to mobile money. We're not used to credit to people to pay back. We don't have like a credit history with customers. So it's been a roadblock, but you have the giants, the solar giants who have, conquered East Africa coming into Nigeria. You have companies like, for example, Greenlight Planets, Lumos, which MTN is working with, who have really done a lot of advocacy on solar. And it's really made people understand that solar can be affordable, and that's quite nice. And even though my company doesn't work with that model, for us, based on the experience with the recession and based on just our tinkering with the cost the cost of solar model, we've done we're more lean based. So we have a very lean business, and we focus on passing on all cost benefits to our customers. So, for example, an average solar kit that could, give you lighting and mobile phone charging, which a company would offer you, for example, 40,000 naira on a pay-as-you-go basis. We could give that to you for 13,000 naira. You understand? It comes with a radio, comes with Bluetooth playing for music. So you can see that we've really worked on the cost economics. And then because we know the Nigerians, we've understood them properly, they're still very new to pay as you go. So when you offer them something that is within their price points, they're able to purchase that. So there's lots of money in the informal economy, because the informal economy is about 70% of Nigeria's market at this point in time. So being able to understand what the informal economy wants and their pricing points really helps in unlocking the capital that is there at the quote unquote bottom of the pyramid, even though I don't see it that way.
Oh wow! So I can see that you guys have put in a lot of thought, and I now understand why you're saying that the recession was kind of a blessing in disguise for you guys.
Absolutely.
Uh, yeah. So what kind of other products do you offer right now? Because I know you basically have tailored your products for every single possible customer base. So could you just walk through the products you have?
Okay. Okay. Before I walk through the products I have, I'm going to just paint a picture. And this is one of the things that I love to do with people to give them more of an understanding. So the World Bank has tiers of energy access. And if you think of a step, 5 steps, you have the first lowest step, which is, people who have access to a candle, or what they call atuba in Nigeria, the basic form of lighting that is dirty and, polluting. And you have the second set of people on the on the step who have access to like a light bulb. You see those people in their shops that just have one light bulb, shining through, and that's what they have. And you have those people. Then you have people who have access to lighting and a fan, medium form of energy. They can cope. And then you have those who have higher energy demands. They have a laptop, they have lighting, they have fan, they have TV, and it transitions. And the picture being painted is, different people on a scale of energy access. Everybody has their own scale. So for example, I'm privileged to fall into a scale where I can supply all my energy needs via solar, via the grid, or via, petrol. So the products that we offer cater to everyone. And, coming back to Nigeria, when I first got back into Nigeria after being at the UN, I always saw lots of solar installations, for businesses, for residentials, people who could afford the massive, solar panels. And I always knew that I wanted to reach the furthest behind first, because those were the people who didn't have access to energy and who needed it so bad. Not me. I mean, I need energy so bad, but I'm flexible, but they don't, they are at the wrongs. And I had to do something for them, and I had to make energy affordable for them. So the first products that we ventured into were solar lanterns. And these products were essentially like a lantern, but they had a solar panel on the top. It could come with mobile phone charging to assist, these people, lift them to the first rungs of energy access. And then the second ones were 3 bulbs, a solar kit that came with 3 bulbs and backup for phone charging. And then further to that, we then did, the same solar kit, but this came with radio, playing of music with your memory card or a USB stick, and then even Bluetooth functionality for those people who wanted to have more fun and who were more buoyant to do that. And then moving on from that, we also looked at um, businesses, SMEs that needed to have power. Power for, the tailors, the hairdressers, the barbers, somebody at the market stall. So those could, give you lighting points, bulbs. Those could also power a laptop, a fan, and also play you music, because Nigerians or Africans are happy people and they love entertainment. So we did that, and then moving up from there, we then do the massive solar installations, residential rooftops, the ones you see. For example, like 10 solar panels packed on someone's roof or in a carport form. We do that as well. And then we also do for companies as well. A lot of oil and gas companies that want to, power their facilities at night. We also assist with them as well. So basically everyone. And an area that we are getting into now, which is very, very exciting for us, is solar for agriculture. Solar for irrigation, solar for pumping, solar for refrigeration, because these are areas that are very important to unlocking the, potential of Africans when it comes to ensuring food security. So we are really transitioning to other areas, even transport as well.
Let me just give used East Africa as an example. They don't suffer with as much of the resource curse that other African countries suffer from, especially in the West, that we have a little bit of the oil and gas business going. Yeah, be that as it may. So there's been massive strides as far as supplementing their national grid production, and the government actually investing in and making opportunity for private investors to come in and develop solar projects, hydrothermal projects, and even going as far as commissioning nuclear energy projects in the future. And then you have a country like Nigeria, where the idea of nuclear is something that you still need to convince people over. Looking at it in a very, you can be optimistic or pessimistic, is up to you. What role do you see renewable energy playing in Nigeria in the next 15, 30 years, or in just the near future going forward? Do you see that something is only a matter of time before people realize that, hmm, maybe noisy generators that pump out smoke, have high maintenance costs, are probably not the best option, and we can move on? Or do you think it's something that will still take a bit of time for people to really understand the benefits? How do
The
you look
truth
at
is
it?
that Nigerians are beginning to get aware of the fact that we can't continue the same as usual. They complain of, I mean, lots of the customers that we come in contact with, when we discuss solar with them, they love it, they embrace it because they complain of noise pollution, and they complain of, fumes, which could also, get in contact with sparks, which could burn up rooms, buildings. We've had instances where there have been reported in the news of families being burned to death or families being exposed to, you know, air pollution has killed them. So they're aware of this. But the major issue, like I mentioned earlier, is the, costing, is the costing of solar. And the beauty of what is happening is that solar prices keep on falling, battery costs keep on falling. So there is a lot of hope for this form of energy. And for people who have transitioned, they have had a lot of praise and accolades have been awarded to us. It's like, oh, thank you so much. You've changed my life for the better. I feel better using this, especially when you do like a cost comparison with transitioning from solar from transitioning from your diesel generator to your solar case or generator. You'd say, okay, you're spending, let's say, 2,000 naira every day, or even 5,000 naira every day to power your generator, and then you have to also keep on repairing. But with this one, here's the upfront cost, and here's the upside. You don't replace you don't replace your panels for 25 years. You have free maintenance that comes with the products and all that. So they really really see the future with solar. And quite frankly, Nigeria as a whole, we need to really really include renewable energy into the energy mix. And to be fair, we have hydro, we have Kanji Dam and the others, but quite frankly, we need to increase the energy efficiency of those dams, the transmission lines and all that. But that's a story for a different day. But quite frankly, solar energy, my favorite, gives the opportunity to leapfrog into higher realms of development. Because if we look at the continent as a whole, Africa has the most to lose as a result. I mean, we contribute barely nothing to emissions. Less than 1% of CO2, global CO2s are from Africa. But in reality, we have the most to lose. So we need to sit up and we need to drive the conversation on climate change and on, cleaner forms of energy. So that's the way I see it.
I get really inspired when I talk to people about, like, you talking about energy access and empowering people to take themselves out of bad situations and really give themselves more opportunities. And I've heard some people coming up with some very very creative solutions to this. There is this story I heard recently about this man who does solar installations in Somalia, and since he knew the people didn't have the money to pay upfront for the solar installations, he had them pay with goats because apparently Somalia has a lot of of
In a butter.
domesticated animals, and and it's funny to think about a man basically running his business through a trade by barter system, but he understands the
Yes,
importance that the simple technology can give to people. He understands how much it can make them more productive, how much it can make them much safer, how much it can make them improve their businesses, their lives, make the children be able to study at night. Simple things that we don't think should be issues that can be resolved very, very quickly with these
absolutely.
solutions. And that's what I really feel is absolutely amazing about all of this, to be honest.
Absolutely. I think solar or renewables is the way forward, and the sooner we embrace it, the faster we will leapfrog into higher realms of development.
Definitely. So, one more thing I have to ask. This whole concept about women in energy. Have you had any challenges? It's I'm not sure if it's fair to call renewable energy sector a male-dominated sector. Then, has there been any pushback doing business in an African setting in Nigeria because of that, or has it been something you've been able to walk through every phase you've been through so far?
The honest truth is that for me as a person, right from a very young age, I don't know if it's the way I was brought up, maybe seeing both my parents in active entrepreneurship, but I just never identified to my form. My form me being my body, being a woman, being a female. I never really identified to that, even though I knew I was a female. I always identified to my formless parts, which was more of my spirit, and really, really aligned to what is my gift to share to this world and how can I achieve that? Who do I need around me? That was really, really my focus. So when it came to gender issues, I would say I'm really, really blessed to maybe not be aware of them for me because when I have a goal, I am so hell bent on achieving it. If I'm in a room with 20 men, I don't feel it because I just feel that I am there for a purpose. I'm there to achieve what I'm meant to achieve. I'm there to say what I'm meant to say. So I don't think, oh, I'm a woman. Because a lot of the time, when you think first I am female, then the blinders come and then you say, oh, can I say this? Can I do this? How would I be perceived? So I guess maybe nature or nurture. I just didn't have those blinders. But I would say that I've been exposed to the plight of women across the globe, women in Africa, and it's really, really unfortunate the way the way women are disadvantaged in business or in other spheres, employment. And that's why Salva is focused on unlocking human capital through women. We work closely with female owned NGOs. Not to say that we don't work with men as well, but women at the forefront of our lens because they are the furthest behind. You know, for example, in the agricultural space that we work in, a lot of women are on the farmlands. They are working on all this arable land, but yet they don't have title documents to any of them. And in some communities, women aren't supposed to own land, or women are supposed to own land through the permission of their husbands. So this is where we are, and this is why the company has taken a stance to really, really stand for women. And being a female CEO, I understand that I have a role to play in the way that I present myself and the way that I conduct my business. And so I do work with, mentees and I speak to them on how to, reapproach the conversation of being a woman in business. The fact that, you should embrace your formlessness, the main reason you're here in this world, what you're here to achieve. It doesn't matter if you're here to, be a gardener. That's the highest calling if that's what is put in your heart. And so that's the way I approach female issues essentially.
That was actually a very beautiful answer. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so just to go a step further, in this. So you mentioned you have mentees that you speak to a bit regularly. So what do you say to young people who want to come into the industry, men, women, whatever they may be? How do you speak to them, or what would you tell them to prepare for, and especially about looking beyond just what their jobs are or what the jobs they're doing, and actually having a purpose behind it, having a mission that, okay, I'm standing for something more than myself right now? And how do you put that in words to someone that you're talking to?
Absolutely. There are a lot of ways that I approach them, but I'm just going to make it very simple. So, the first thing first is, to be brave, to not be afraid to march to your own drum beats. Because a lot of the mentees I speak with are very young and they are at a transitional point where it's either, you go work for a company or you start your own company. And so many times when it's time, when you feel that intuitive nudge to start something, there are voices that say no, or there are voices that create doubts, and those voices that create doubts are not there because they don't want you to succeed. They aren't there because they don't want you to actualize your destiny, but they're there to protect you because they feel that you are stepping into unknown territory. And that's why, in a way, I also advocate a spiritual practice. And a spiritual practice could be anything. It could be your religion, it could be even you just having some quiet time to meditate. But the whole essence is to hold your voice, your inner voice, your intuition. It's for you to be able to listen to the drum beat of your heart, to be aligned with your destiny, to be aligned with who you are. Because when you know yourself that deeply, you're able to stand on a grounded platform. You're speaking from a deeper eye, from a deeper sense of knowing. And so you are not speaking from a sense of who do I please? Am I wrong? Am I right? It takes time to hone this, but the more you exercise this or flex this muscle, you're able to, to withstand whatever comes. And I also say to my mentees to build an awesome team. You need people wherever you go. You need people in whatever you do. Nothing is done alone. And it's always nice to raise people up. You don't achieve anything by going alone. Yes, I mean, you'd achieve something going alone, but when you go with a team, everything is 10 times less. People ask me a lot, oh, how are you able to, do solar and then do agriculture and then, work with your conglomerate? And I just say the people I work with make life so awesome. And in addition to bringing on people and empowering them to do great things, also realizing that your company, whatever you're building, whatever, an NGO, a company, whatever, team you're building, you're offering them a platform to be who they are. Everyone yearns to be their highest self. And wouldn't it be so amazing if you could bring in a team of people and see that you are an instrument to helping them actualize who they're meant to be? Oh wow. And apart from that, being able to share with people. When people have helped you get to where you are, share with them. It could be financially, bonuses, it could be trainings. But the fact is that you're open to sharing your knowledge, your resources, being in that state of flow to understand that people come into your life and leave for a reason. It doesn't matter if, okay, somebody leaves your company and goes somewhere else. Good. You're helping Africa. You're building a continent of resilient people. I love Jumia a lot because Jumia has been able to um, you know form a lot of successful CEOs. They've churned out so many successful CEOs, and that's what a company should be: a vehicle, a channel for people to actualize their destiny. So that's what I tell new mentees. It's not about making money. It's not about being the baddest or whatever. It takes time, and that's just. I have so much more, but I just skip this for now. Yeah. So that's just it.
I hope you've been able to pick up something from that conversation. Renewable energy has done a lot of things in developing countries, especially in the area of rural electrifications. And Salpha Energy has been a major player, especially here in Nigeria. They've teamed up with Reese Africa for some of the projects they've done in the past. And if you don't know what Reese Africa is, it's an NGO that operates here in Nigeria that goes into communities that have never had electricity in their entire history and evaluates them and then provides them with solar home systems. So they've had some partnerships in the past, and we actually interviewed the CEO of Reese Energy on the podcast. Her name is Yetunde Fadeyi. You can go check that out. It's very, very wonderful. And one more thing, during the episode, I mentioned something about a man who trades gold for kilowatt hours. Solar home systems, basically. So in the next episode, we're going to be having that man on the podcast to have a conversation about his story and how he started up doing what he's doing. So his name is Guled Ahmed. You can look forward to that on the next episode. So thank you so much for tuning in this week. I really appreciate everyone who has found the podcast and continue to listen. If you want to keep up with conversation, follow us on Instagram, on LinkedIn, on Twitter. We would love to hear from you. Email us if you have anything you'd love to hear us talk about. If you have any questions, we're always willing to have a conversation with you guys that listen to the podcast. So thank you so much. This has been your host, Olubunmi Olajide, and thank you so much to Jensen for the music in this episode.
Jensen with them flames, eh?